The Flying Milk Bottle, How America's Joke Became Germany's Nightmare. The Hook, German pilots laughed when they first saw it wobbling through the clouds over occupied France. 2 years later, that laughter had turned to screams of terror and the desperate roar of dying engines. The P-47 Thunderbolt, mockingly called the Flying Milk Bottle by Luftwaffe aces who considered it little more than target practice, would become the most feared aircraft in European skies, systematically burying the vaunted Luftwaffe under an unstoppable avalanche of American steel and lead. April 8, 1943. The joke arrives high above the patchwork fields of occupied France. German ace Oberleutnant Ralph Hermichen couldn't contain his amusement. Through his Focke-Wulf 190's pristine canopy, he watched 16 American P-47 Thunderbolts struggling pathetically for altitude, their pilots clearly fighting their own aircraft. "The Americans have sent us flying milk bottles," he transmitted to his squadron, voice dripping with amused contempt. "Easy kills, gentlemen." The P-47s looked genuinely absurd. Bloated, barrel-shaped fuselages that seemed aerodynamically impossible, ungainly greenhouse canopies, and wings that appeared comically too small for their massive 7-ton bodies. To battle-hardened German pilots accustomed to sleek Spitfires and nimble fighters, these corpulent American machines seemed less like weapons of war and more like cruel practical jokes played on rookie pilots. What Hermichen couldn't possibly know in that moment of smug superiority, he was witnessing the arrival of the weapon that would systematically, methodically, and completely annihilate his Air Force. Born from desperation. The Thunderbolt emerged from the panicked chaos of June 1940. As unstoppable German fighters swept across France like a mechanized plague, designer Alexander Kartveli received desperate, urgent orders. Build something, anything, capable of matching the Luftwaffe's seemingly invincible best. His response was nothing short of radical engineering madness. "It will be a dinosaur," he admitted to skeptical Republic aviation executives, but a dinosaur with surprisingly good proportions. The prototype shocked absolutely everyone who laid eyes on it. At 9,900 pounds empty, it weighed a staggering 65% more than its predecessor. Experienced test pilots stared in disbelief and asked the obvious question, "This ungodly thing actually flies?" It did far more than merely fly. The magnificent Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp engine, 18 massive cylinders producing an earth-shaking 2,000 horsepower, maintained full devastating power at 27,000 feet, where German fighters wheezed and gasped for air. But the Thunderbolt proved deadly even before meeting enemies, tragically killing 18 American pilots during brutal training. It ground-looped viciously on landing, torque rolled unexpectedly during takeoff, and dove so aggressively that terrified pilots discovered their flight controls could literally freeze solid from supersonic shock waves. Yet those rare pilots who truly mastered this mechanical beast discovered something genuinely extraordinary. Future ace Robert Johnson described his first flight with religious awe, like strapping yourself to a runaway locomotive. You didn't fly it. You aimed it and held on desperately. Early humiliation. The first combat encounters seemingly confirmed every German prejudice. P-47s couldn't turn with agile Focke-Wulfs, couldn't climb with nimble Messerschmitts, couldn't remotely match their legendary handling characteristics. Hauptmann Josef Priller reported dismissively, "Meat for the slaughter. It flies like a loaded truck, climbs like a pregnant cow." During their disastrous first month of operations, Americans lost 14 precious Thunderbolts for merely 3 German kills, an utterly humiliating exchange rate. Cynical British pilots joked that the Thunderbolt's best evasive maneuver involved unstrapping and literally running around the spacious cockpit while enemy shells whistled harmlessly past. But something genuinely strange was quietly happening. P-47s absorbed absolutely incredible punishment before reluctantly falling from the sky. One miraculous aircraft returned to base sporting 21 devastating cannon holes and well over 100 machine gun strikes. Catastrophic damage that would have instantly vaporized any Messerschmitt into aluminum confetti. And when P-47s finally managed to get those 8 massive guns properly on target, the results proved absolutely catastrophic. The day everything changed. June 26, 1943. Lieutenant Robert Johnson found himself bounced by 16 Focke-Wulf 190s hunting in coordinated packs. 20 20mm cannon shells exploded violently across his aircraft in a matter of seconds. The canopy shattered into deadly fragments, hydraulic fluid sprayed everywhere in crimson streams, the engine cowling tore completely away, and fire erupted menacingly behind the instrument panel. Wounded by razor-sharp shrapnel, Johnson desperately tried to bail out into the thin air. The canopy was impossibly jammed, literally welded shut by a cannon shell explosion. He was trapped at 27,000 feet in a dying aircraft with virtually no visibility, a barely functioning engine, coughing black smoke, and flight controls that scarcely responded to his desperate inputs. The P-47 somehow kept flying. A lone German fighter eventually discovered the crippled Thunderbolt pathetically limping toward England at a glacial 170 manibars. He positioned confidently behind Johnson's smoking wreck and opened fire with everything, 4 20mm cannon and 2 13mm machine guns simultaneously. The Thunderbolt absorbed absolutely everything and impossibly kept flying. The increasingly frustrated German repositioned and fired again, this time conserving ammunition with machine guns only. Incredibly, it continued flying. The German pilot pulled alongside in complete disbelief, staring through his canopy. Johnson clearly saw his enemy's face, young, blonde, aristocratic, his expression shifting dramatically from cocky confidence to genuine confusion to dawning fear. The German emptied every remaining round, then pulled alongside once more, shook his head in amazed admiration, gave an informal salute acknowledging the impossible, and disappeared into cloud cover. Johnson somehow landed safely with over 200 documented bullet holes. 3 of the 4 main structural spars were shot completely through, yet the indestructible aircraft had brought him home alive. This impossible survival sent genuine shock waves through both air forces. German intelligence initially flat out refused to believe the detailed reports. But multiple pilots independently confirmed the impossible truth. The Thunderbolt had absorbed everything the Luftwaffe possessed and simply survived. The joke had stopped being funny. The thunder was coming and nothing could stop it.